Today we built the new Lego Iron Monger.
So what?
What do you mean, so what?
So what? Tony Stark would have been able to build this Lego set in a cave with a box of scraps.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm not Tony Stark. Hello all, I'm Tony Stark. This is Tony Stark Builds Stuff, and today I am a genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist. No, I am Josh. This is Josh Builds Stuff, and I like to think that my closest relation to Tony Stark himself is that in Iron Man 1 he eats Burger King, and I eat Burger King in just everyday life, so maybe not as great of a relation as I would like to have. Today we are talking about the all-new Lego Marvel Iron Man Monger Mayhem set. This is another set that just came out August 1st, 2021, along with just about every other Lego set that has ever come out on August 1st, 2021. This set contains 479 pieces and costs $40 here in the US. This, of course, is another Lego mech, but that doesn't mean it's not a great set. Lego makes a bunch of Lego mechs, and I have made a lot of Lego mechs. I mean, just Lego official Lego mechs. It's also fun to just say Lego mechs. This is, of course, depicting the Iron Monger, which is the mech which Obadiah Stane makes his scientists create when he's trying to recreate Iron Man's Iron Man suit from the first Iron Man movie, but it comes out as some crazy oversized amalgamation of Iron Man parts. But that's what this set contains. It is one large mech, which is known as the Iron Monger. It contains a couple of minifigures, Obadiah Stane, Iron Man himself, and Pepper Potts herself. This set, in my initial opinion, is decent. It's good, but it is what we would all expect from a Lego mech. If you have built Lego mechs as much as I have made Lego mechs, then you built something that you expected. Still, there is plenty worth appreciating about this little set, and we will talk about this set more in detail, as well as about the minifigures and what I like and dislike about this set right after we build it. The build for this set, well, as I just said, it was familiar and yet unique enough, because if you built one Lego mech, you have simultaneously built every other Lego mech and no other Lego mechs, because no two Lego mechs are exactly the same. That being said, in this build, you are going to build a mech body and then some kind of rotating, twisting hip area of the mech, and then some sort of relatively symmetrical upper leg portions, and then large foot portions, and then again, somewhat symmetrical upper arm portions, and then probably somewhat unique hand portions. And that's all of the elements that go into a mech. This build was familiar to other mechs, but those individual elements of this mech are still going to be unique to this mech. The colors are a little boring, but when you look past that, you still get a decent looking mech in the end of the build. Do you think if Tony Stark were watching Fiddler on the Roof that he would relate to Tevye in his plight in singing If I Were a Rich Man? Because, Tevye wasn't rich, but maybe because Tony Stark was already rich, he wouldn't relate so much to that song. Maybe he would relate to L'Chaim, to Life, that song, because, Tony had a bit of a drinking problem early on, and I guess that was in the comics, but not really in the movie. He was kind of past that point by the time we got to the movie, but maybe when he was trying to relate to Pepper, he'd be like, "Do you love me?" And Golda would be like, "Do I love you?" In this case, Golda is Pepper Potts, his betrothed at whatever point in the series you would like to follow. And what I'm trying to get at is that I think Tony Stark's life and the life of Tevye from Fiddler on the Roof, they're kind of a one-to-one correlation if you follow what I'm getting at. All that to say, let's talk about the minifigures included in this set. The minifigures we get here are Golda. I'm sorry, I'm still on the analogy. We get Pepper Potts, who, yep, she looks fine. That looks like Pepper Potts. We also get Obadiah Stane. Tony Stark built us in a cave. You remember from the intro. It is Obadiah Stane. Tony Stark's old boss turns out to be the bad guy in Iron Man 1. Sorry for the spoiler. Sure, this minifigure looks good enough for being who he is supposed to be. You can't hide a second face between a hairpiece on this minifigure, though, because the actual character was bald, and so is this minifigure. I actually kind of appreciate that detail when it comes to minifigures. And then, of course, we get Tony Stark himself, who in this case is dressed a little more like Iron Man, and if you include all of the cool accessories included with this figure, he's blasting off like a Billy Joel song in this case. That is a Rocket Man, I guess. I should probably go with the Iron Man song himself. What was that? Black Sabbath that actually sang that song? In any case, I am very happy about one detail about this figure, and that's that the helmet is finally one of those two-piece helmets that opens up in the front, because in a bunch of the recent Avengers and other just Lego Marvel sets that we've gotten lately, it's been the one-piece helmet. I think they're the sets that came out kind of along with the Square Enix Avengers video game, which is a fine video game for what it was, but for some reason all those sets had like the single, I call him the chubby Iron Man because he has like weird cheek indentations. I'll try to include a picture of him here, but this Iron Man and this Iron Man helmet, in my opinion, is much better looking overall. You'll remember where Iron Man was like, "I'm bringing the party to you," and then flew off? Well, that's almost always the way that I prefer my parties to be, that someone brings them to me. I don't have to go out to someone else's house and drive there or whatever and deal with all of that. I would almost always rather just people come to my house, bring the party to me, and then you all leave at an appropriate hour. That is my preferred way to party. Today, we are taking a closer look at the Iron Man Monger Mayhem set. The Iron Monger is included. You will have to bring the mayhem yourself. Perhaps Tony can help with that kind of thing when he brings the party to you. This mech is mainly what I want to talk about, not really the minifigures. We looked at those a second ago. There is room for a single minifigure inside this mech. I have chosen to include Obadiah Stane to keep my Lego as canonically accurate as possible, but giving a little review on this mech, I said before, as a mech, he is similar to many current Lego mechs. He's got some articulation at the hips, some ball joints at the legs, some large oversized feet with some, I guess you would say, like repulsors there that would propel him upwards, as you would see if you watched the movie. Some repulsors in the hands, but again, some articulation in the arms and the elbows in this case. Some of these fingers, again, there are a lot of problems that I have with mechs. Things like their fingers want to fall off a lot. A lot of them are unstable. They're not actually great to play with, in my opinion, for like a younger audience, because as you try to pose them, you have to like have him balanced just correctly to get him to actually stand up while you're trying to play with him. But I'll address those issues more in a future video. As for this mech, I think he's fine for what he is. I mentioned that his colors are a little boring and that his thumbs tend to fall off, as I literally just said about other mechs. Where would a thumb go if you were a right hand? Maybe there, I guess? So aside from the boring yet accurate color scheme, I think this mech does some things very well. He looks like a rudimentary mech built by Obadiah Stane's Stark scientists that he has under his disposal. And I mean, like, it has like these exposed piston pieces here that do actually move when his arms move and stuff. Like they move around if you don't disconnect the joint there. That's what I was talking about with these mechs. Like, as you try to just play with them, they might or might not fall apart. So I got pieces here that I could click back in place, and I'm a fully grown, don't quote me on that, I'm an adult and I'm trying to play with this set and things are still falling apart. Let's get back to the actual details of the set. I like that there's like exposed leg piston things here. A lot of this set looks kind of thrown together because that's what it was in the actual movie here. Things I don't like are like these detached shoulder pieces that you can see. They will stay in place if you have his arms. They will not stay in place. Boy, I sure am purposely, this is purposeful, I am purposely emphasizing my point that some pieces of this mech are held in place very delicately, which is not great because I think mechs from Lego are designed to be played with, and yet I'm kind of just demonstrating that they're difficult to play with. And I think honestly, this would be better used as a display piece. If you just put it on a shelf, pose him kind of decently in a cool position, and then don't touch him because he's like a model apparently that just wants to fall apart on you. So what I was trying to say about shoulders, you can get these two shoulder pieces to look square with his entire shoulder line if his arms are up just right, but I don't like that those move when his shoulders move. So if his arms are down, his shoulders are all of a sudden at a weird angle and whatnot. It's not the worst thing in the world, but you know, it's just little details like that. I do like that he has some play features, those being like his I guess like Gatling gun, his 6-stud shooter gun on one hand, and then on the other hand he's got, I'm gonna call it like a mini disc shooter. He does not shoot the full size 2x2 discs, but rather the 1x1 discs. And I love that obviously Lego includes a bunch of extra discs because you will lose those for sure. They give you a little crate where you can stick a bunch of extra discs in there. I love that Lego gives me a place to store my extra pieces, because if there's one thing that these sets don't lack lately, it's just a whole bunch of extra pieces between the couple of sets that we have just finished building. I've also tried to change some lighting to try to show this. The chest piece on this figure, well, it's not a printed piece, it is a sticker on top of a glow-in-the-dark disc. That may be like a 3x3 disc, I'm not quite sure. If I turn off some lights here, we may be able to see that a little bit. You can see that that centerpiece kind of wants to glow in the dark. The hand pieces, I don't think are glow in the dark, they're just white pieces behind a trans blue piece. On the box art, it shows that centerpiece kind of glowing a little more than it is in reality. That's a little bit of an embellishment. I hope no one was expecting like a light piece included there, like on the big UCS Iron Man Iron Hulkbuster set is what I'm getting at from, I think, Age of Ultron. There was a big version of that set that came out that has the light piece in the middle. I don't know if there's been any other Marvel mechs that have had a light up centerpiece. This is, I guess, a decent enough substitute. So overall, my thoughts on this mech. That printed helmet piece is also pretty cool. Otherwise, it's a bunch of stickers on this thing. Overall, I think this mech is decent for what he is, but what I'm about to say is that there's better mechs that came out in this same line of new Marvel sets this year, but just talking about this mech by himself, he is what I would call decent. So overall, it is okay if you cried at the end of Endgame, you know, when Tony was all like, I am Iron Man, and snapped, and you know, it's okay, because we started here in Iron Man 1 with the basic, the simple, the still very cool, basic Iron Man suit fighting the Iron Monger. Sure, the proportions are a little off between minifigure and Monger here, but that is easily enough overlooked. I think Lego did a great job depicting the Iron Monger in this mech form, which again we've seen several times before, but still, if you think back to the origin story of these characters and where they came from, I am very glad that we got a depiction of this very early MCU character in this case. And so if you're looking for a recommendation or asking if this new mech is worth $40 on its own, well, I'd say sure if you're a fan of the first Iron Man movie. But if you sense some hesitation in my voice, that's because I think there is at least one new mech that's better than this one from the new Marvel line that came out the exact same day that this mech came out. But I'm planning to do a separate video where we talk more about the 3 new Marvel mechs that came out on August 1st, so keep an eye out for that. But just evaluating this mech completely on its own, it's fine for what it is. That being said, buying or not buying this set would be entirely a matter of your own taste. I will say that the worst part about this set is that it doesn't take very long to build, and honestly, if you're trying to build this while watching Fiddler on the roof in the background, that movie is much, much longer than the duration of this build. So just keep that in mind. Especially if you take into account the intermission in the middle of the movie itself. So maybe grab a couple of Lego sets, pile them up if you're planning to watch Fiddler in the background, because again, it's going to take a long time. And so speaking of a long time, this video's gone on for long enough, so I will end it here. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends. That was my Obadiah Stane impression if you needed it one more time. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.